Thank you for tuning in to Reviving Humanity. Today's episode, I Am Alkebulan, will introduce to you, if you haven't already heard the name, Alkebulan. There were many great historians who researched and believed, without a shadow of a doubt, that Africa, before colonized and renamed by Europeans, was called Alkebulan. In this episode, I'm going to explain to you why this knowledge is important to know, and why it's important to know our history beyond just the New World, beyond just colonization and slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. Why it's so important to know this. It's important to know who we were at our worst, just as well as it's important to know who we were at our best. We've only been given one half of the story, slavery. Okay, which is why so many of us want to retract. We want to disassociate because that's such a horrible part of our story. But there's more just beyond. The name Alkebulan, however, is just one piece of that puzzle. Research states that the first humanoid remains found in Africa date back between 250,000 to 350,000 years ago. There's so much history for us to uncover. This episode won't deliver you in the entire history, but it should provide you with enough information to encourage you to become your own researcher and explorer. Because the state of our humanity, the state of our descendants' lives depends on how hard we fight to uncover our truths. As I stated above, there were and are many great African researchers and historians who do disagree, with what Africa's true name was before colonization. But if humans existed on the continent for over 250,000 years, is it not possible that the continent held many different names? Like America, for example. Did you know that the United States of America used to be called Turtle Island by the natives? See, there's so many questions that we don't ask. We just accept that and we don't say, well, what was it called before that? Just like as a child, when my grandmother said that God created the universe, created the planets and everything. And I said, well, if God created us, who created God? See, we don't have that in our minds to be to ask questions. We're told not to ask questions. And it reflects in how we get to know people. You can tell we don't ask questions, which is why we don't know anything about anything. But getting back into it, the questions that we do not ask, that's what keeps us ignorant by definition. It keeps us ignorant of who we are, where we came from, and where we're going. One great African historian and researcher that I like to introduce to you, he was a Senegalese historian, Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop. The spelling of his name is Cheikh, Anta, Anta, Diop, Diop. Now, see, we don't even have the D is silent there, okay? But he writes that Alkebulan was the name of Africa, and that Alkebulan is the mother of all mankind, the Garden of Eden. But like most of us melanated African descent peoples around the globe, we aren't taken seriously. We are often discredited, while NASA, who has been wrong in the past, is never questioned or discredited. We never question those who identify as white, yet we always question the intellect of those who are classified as black. It's part of that false racial hierarchy that was created. But what I've decided to do is take the knowledge and research I've discovered and empower those in my community with that information. I Am Alkebulan is a product line I created and trademarked to help us propel forward in knowledge of self, knowledge of our truths, which remain stolen and buried, knowledge of our truths that have been stolen and buried around the globe. This also called to me. You know how sometimes the spirit feels a calling, and it's hard to communicate this with a lot of people who disbelieve in the spirit realm. You know, a lot of us, it's all about what you can see. What you cannot see does not exist, right? But I felt called to this. This called me. I felt spiritually connected to that name. As I said, we're often taught that our spiritual experiences are fiction by those who identify as white, while in fact, it's quite the opposite. Alkebulan was an indigenous term that referred to the ancient name of Africa. It is believed to have been the name used by indigenous peoples such as the Moors, the Nubians, and the Ethiopians before the Europeans arrived. And it was important for me to incorporate. I wanted to show because, you know, our history, and I just want to talk about this really quick. Let me just sidetrack for a minute. You know, a lot of shows and films have been centered when they showcase Egypt, right? The pyramids and the pharaohs, okay? When they show this, it's often has always been displayed as a white figure. And I even noticed this when I was looking at, you know, Halloween costumes or just looking at them online. It's interesting. If you look up the Egyptian costumes, who is the face? Who is the child wearing the face of these pharaohs, of these Egyptian goddesses? But then anytime a black person, right, anytime we would walk and try to wear that, we are somehow demonized. We are, you know, frowned upon. But all it is a tactic to keep us from knowing our true history, to keep us from knowing our connection to Egypt, from our connection to those pyramids. And it is so important. It's not just Egypt. Egypt is not the only place that has had significant, you know, a significance in history. There are many other places in Africa that are not talked about. But that seems to be the focus, because those are the, I think the pyramids of Giza are the largest pyramids. Okay. And then you have the Sphinx, right? And so I looked at that and I could tell, I said, they placed a woman's head on a lion body. Okay. So my design is taking it back and having, you know, designing it in a futuristic way in my own interpretation. Okay. Combining the features of a woman and a lion, right? The mother of mankind. Because obviously the lion was prevalent back then in ancient times. So that's another way, you know, when I say not a monkey, but a lion, it has so much meaning behind it. There's so much meaning. And the design itself that I designed with the woman, and as I said, the woman lion figure, you know, I could have made that woman into, you know, my mom said, you know, if you make this into a pretty woman, if you make her pretty, you might actually get some good sales. And it's like, Mom, I'm not, this is a statement piece. This is not a, you know, a beauty contest. Okay. But I did find, when I see this, I see beauty. I see beauty. But that's another thing, we have to decolonize our minds, because we are taught that there is only one type of beauty, that beauty is linear. But there are so many variations, so many road maps in humanity to beauty. And once you begin to open your mind and see that, you can decolonize your mind. It's just like when I was taught growing up that wearing dreadlocks, wearing, braids, that was somehow beneath a European hairstyle. But as I began to decolonize, I began to see just how beautiful, not just how beautiful, but how our hairstyles trump the European hairstyle. And that's why this was put in place. But again, this is not about, again, we have to, when it talks about reviving humanity, we have to be able to see, have grace and empathy, to not allow pride and ego to step in. We must have grace and empathy, because not everyone can do their hair the way that we can. And I think that's one of the many mistakes we made in ancient times, is that we had too much ego and pride, because that has never left humanity. that obviously has never left humanity, right? But now it's making sure that as we are going through this transition, we are learning that once we finally rise again, we can rise with empathy and grace. Because as I said, not everyone can do. Just look at these different African hairstyles. Look at these different the braids, the cornrows. As I said in season 1, I believe that could have been one of our first arts, one of our ancestors' first arts. It's so artistic. Now, I'd like to speak about each design that I created around the I Am Alkebulan product line and how it's important to not only me, but to you. One of my designs, not a monkey, but a lion, is a FU in the face of white supremacy, which constantly equates us as Black people to monkeys, apes, the planet of the apes. Think back to blackface, which still is happening today. Think back to blackface and all of its caricatures, the over dramatization of our mouths, equating it to the mouth of a monkey, the mouth and nose of a monkey. Just think back to that, which still exists today. There were white people somewhere around the globe eating chocolate that was in the shape of a Black man. I mean, I don't know where this weird obsession with this, what this sickness is, but it needs to be addressed. And it's not our job to address it. As I said, we've been feared and placed into submission of silence as a race. Think about the silent generation, that it's a silent generation for a reason, but placed into submission as a race, group of people. And this is my way of breaking that silence and stepping out into dominance. We often don't want to rattle the feathers of racism, We make it comfortable. Yet it's always at the cost of our own mental health, of our own growth. We pay so much. We have no idea how much we pay by remaining silent. Think of people like Nina Simone, who became consumed with anger with her fight against oppression and racism. Of course, we have to find a balance, but it's just the fact that mental illness developed within her. And I don't know the whole story. I'm not going to pretend like I know. I did watch her documentary. But again, a documentary of an hour and 30 minutes cannot ever, truly explain someone's entire life and their experiences. But this is what happens to us. That resilience turns into mental illness. We have to keep so much in. We have to conform. We cannot fight this system alone. We cannot wait for one leader to step forward and then wait for that leader to be taken out. We've got to step out of our own shadows, step out of fear. Not a monkey, but a lion is my artistic way of inspiring us to stare in the face of racism and walk proud and know who you are, that you are not a monkey. And the sad thing is that there's nothing wrong with monkeys, but they have made it to be something wrong with it. Okay, so the monkeys, they need to be redeemed too. Okay, they need their intelligence, spread across the globe. Okay, right? Because they're in this with us. But not a monkey, but a lion is a way to step into dominance, to step out of fear, and wear who you are proudly. That you are power, that you are powerful, that you are not going to no longer, it's just one of those pieces of the puzzle. Everyone's bringing everyone. Now, I wouldn't say everyone, but there's lots of people bringing different pieces of the puzzle. And this is one of my pieces that I wanted to bring to the table. Another design that I created centered around Otabanga. Demand we say their names. Every quarter, it is my goal to introduce an ancestor we don't speak of due to our lack of information and understanding. We don't know our history. There is so many names, so many people we do not know, so many stories that are important for us to know that we do not know. We remain oblivious to it. Otabango was made a mockery of at the Bronx Zoo in New York City, put on display to perform for those who identify as white. He was ripped away from his family in Africa, his family, his wife. His name, like so many others, deserved to be spoken. His story deserves to be told, not by them, but by us. Yet there's so many of us who do not know his name. And that is the point of the design, showing you how so much that we don't know, we have to go back. We have to go back in order to move forward. Get that information. I mean, just think about being dehumanized. You are made to perform in a cage with monkeys in a zoo. And these zoos now benefit. They have prospered, making millions of dollars. And those are the zoos that you take your children to. Yet that history is not told. That is what we should be demanding, that truth. Another design I created is called Letting My Culture Roar Through My Skin. I feel like I must explain what this means. If anyone listening today to this podcast, and I really do appreciate your support if you're still with me since day one, but anyone listening today who has listened since the very first episode, you might remember me poetically saying in the episode titled How White Supremacy Divides Black America. This is towards the very end, the last 4 minutes of it. I stated, be bold enough not to fit in, referring to white supremacy, not to blend in, fierce enough to let your culture roar through your skin. This is what I mean. We still believe that we must code switch in order to get that opportunity, in order to get that house, that job, that boyfriend, that girlfriend. We aren't even being our truest selves in our relationships. What does that say about us? What does that say about our strength, about our pride, when we have to conform instead of taking back our power, letting our cultures roar in the face of white supremacy? There's power in that. There's power in not saying, well, I'm going to, be what you need me to be. Do you understand how much power you give white supremacy when you do that? When you refuse to walk through those doors? I am so happy. There's a show that I watched and I just binged it all pretty much in one day. But it's called Found. And the main character, I love this because this is what I was going to do. And I'm still going to do this. I have to speak it into existence. But the main character wore locks. She did not have to wear a European wig. Okay. She did not have to. And listen, I understand if you are a woman, you are African descent, you are African, you are Black, however you identify. I get that, a lot of us out there, we do wear these and for different reasons. Okay. So this is not to pick on that. But what I'm saying is it says a lot when you have the main character of a show who is melanated, wearing locks, wearing braids, not conforming and saying, well, this is what we are going to present to you. It's a lot of power behind that. Like I said, Akila Davis is a reporter who said, I believe that's her name. I'm sorry if I'm remembering it wrong, but she said, I will no longer wear, from now on, you will see me in my locks. I will wear myself, my natural state. I'm no longer going to Europeanize myself for you. There is so much power behind that. That is part of not conforming, part of not the code switching, which is trying to make it comfortable and saying, well, I will straighten my hair. I will do all this to keep it comfortable. Again, nothing wrong if that's what you do for your own personal reasons. But if you're doing it to be a part of that code switching, having to change the way that you speak, you are giving that system power. A system that says you cannot be intelligent unless you speak a certain way. You can, what is it? You can, I'm sorry. You can be proper without having to, you can have your, let's just say this. So someone coming from the continent of Africa, maybe they come from the Congo, maybe they come from South Sudan, maybe they come from wherever they come from. If they were to move here and to completely adapt the American tone, the typical white American tone, and get rid of their own accent, the accent that they come with, that's part of that. It's like, be you. It's beautiful. Your accent is beautiful, and you can be proper, and your intelligence does not have to be diminished just because you use your own tone, your own accent, or whatever it is that you have. And this is the problem. It's like, and I get some of us, like I was raised, my mom said, talk. She said, why are you talking? I may have mentioned this before. She said, talk black. Why are you talking white? And I said, Mom, I don't know what you mean. This is the only way I know how to talk. And it really was. I didn't know. And I probably still sound this way to some of you. But I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm not code switching. I'm being myself. But this is what I'm saying. At the end of the day, if you have to code switch, you have no idea how much power you give the other person. It's so important. It takes away. It really does. It's a lot of power that you lose when you do that. And this is not a power game. This is not a power struggle. This is about the power within you. Be that lion. Roar. Be that. Because if you have to code switch in order to get that job, in order to rise to the top, is that really worth it? To lose yourself? You're telling everyone else that this is what you must do, telling your children this is what you must do instead of fighting to be who you are? I love seeing my African descent, my Pan-African family. That's what I'm going to refer to it as, my Pan-African family around the globe. I love seeing us in our rawest, most authentic form. However that may be. Whatever it may be, we need to get back to that. But anyways, I spent enough time on that. So that is what I meant by that. What does it say about us when we have to conform instead of taking back our power, letting our cultures roar in the face of white supremacy? If you must fit into something in order to get that job or opportunity, you are selling your soul in the process. It's not easy to fight against the current. Not until you've done it a few times and learned the true power that exists inside of you. I want us to be proud of who we are. A lot of people come to the United States, people from the continent of Africa in particular, and they change their first names in order to make white people comfortable. Do not change your name when you come here. Demand we speak your true name and understand it, understand its meaning, learn it, its respect. Demand that we respect and know you. Why do you have to conform? Why do we always have to conform to something? That was your birth name. Your mother, your father, whoever named you that for a reason. And then to come in here and tell us that your name is Janet or that it's Bobby, you are from Tanzania. You are from South Africa, East Africa, and you're telling me your name is Bobby? Your name is not Bobby. Stop it, please. I'm just saying. Demand this country, demand this system respects you. That's part of that fitting in, saying that, and the African person said this, that, well, you guys do it. You guys code switch, so we do it too, so we can get the opportunity. That is not how we are going to move forward as a human race. That is not how we are going to advance as a species. I promise you that. America needs to learn respect. And yes, I said it. I said it. America needs to learn respect. And yes, I'm talking about that White House. It needs to learn respect. And we need to learn self-respect. It's not just for us, but for our ancestors, for our descendants coming up. We are in a position now that the ancestors have never gotten the chance to step into. They truly had to take it. They truly had to conform. We don't. We truly don't. But we're doing it. You do not have to take it. You choose to take it, and you choose to conform. All for the American dollar, for the American dream. I Am Alkebulan is my artistic interpretation of the mother of all mankind, the Garden of Eden. And the mother of all mankind does not submit to abuse, does not submit to gaslighting, does not submit to prejudice or racism. She rises above it all because she knows that she herself is wisdom. Let's walk in wisdom. Let's find that wisdom. Let's walk in courage. Let's go to the Wizard of Oz if we need to. Okay, let's go visit the Wiz. Walk in courage and heart and demand that we take back the pieces of our puzzle which are still scattered across the globe. We deserve that. We deserve to not be gaslighted. This country will tell you that you demand that we don't owe you anything. Stop demanding stuff. We don't owe you anything. Are you serious? You promised those ancestors 40 acres and a meal and spit in their face and then told their descendants to go drink out of a colored water fountain. And now you allow sundown towns to exist. I'm just saying, stop letting this system tell you that you aren't owed, that they don't owe you anything, that this country does not owe your ancestors, because it owes. It owes so much. But as long as we continue to walk in fear, as long as we continue to walk divided, fighting over whether or not we are Native American or if we are from Africa or not, instead of understanding that we are all connected to the same source. We are Pan-African when you have this hair, when you have this complexion. When we see us, we know without a question that this is who we are, that this is the extended family. I'm telling you, please, whoever is listening, I am speaking from my own lived experience, and it gave me power that I did not have before. It gave me courage that I did not have before when I confronted racism in the workplace. When I did not take it and take it. When I did not make them comfortable at the cost of my own mental health. The only people who can change the way this world turns is going to be us, Black people. By demanding, by staring the oppressors in the eyes, unapologetically proud of everything associated with our divine Blackness. What I am saying is that I am very passionate about us getting back to the truth of who we are. And you must understand the importance of getting back to that truth. That is why, as we are so divided, we don't fight for that. We're so divided because we still don't know who we are. But once you begin to know who you are and you find pride in that, there is so much no one can take away. No one can take away that pride and power and that power within. It's no longer suppressed. A lot of us, we really are lost. They have us distracted with drugs, with alcohol, with sex. That is what a lot of us in the Black community are distracted with. and we are not focusing on our purpose in life. This is important. I am telling you, you can do it. You have the choice. The choice is always yours. But years ago, our ancestors did not have a choice. I just ask you to try to be brave and step out of that. If you want to show up to work, wearing your hair braided, don't allow this system to tell you to demonize and dehumanize who you are. There's so much power, so much spirit in the African person. And we need to take pride in that, take that back. This is all I have for today. But I truly hope that wherever you are, that you stay safe, you stay educated, and you get to know yourself. Take care.